guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be taking you through all of the things I wish I had known when I was diagnosed with diabetes 15 years ago, back when I was 7 years old. There were a lot of things that I was told, and one of them was that there would be a cure by the time I was 18, and here I am at 22 years old and no cure yet. So yeah, a lot of the things I was told I think weren't really obviously correct and also not really that helpful, but over the years I've learned a lot of things I wish I had known earlier. So if you're newly diagnosed, this video is just for you, because yeah, I'm hoping it's going to help you kind of adjust into the condition and just feel a bit more reassured and informed about where this condition is going to take you. So I don't want to ramble too much, I want to get straight into the tips. So yeah, let's get into this video with the first mention. And I don't want to start on a negative note, but I do think it's really important to say that it isn't as simple as just counting carbs and plugging numbers into ratios. I wish it was this simple, but it is not. Obviously, when you're first diagnosed, the doctors and nurses don't want to bombard you with tons and tons and tons of information, so you won't learn everything straight away. But please just be mentally prepared that there are a lot of factors that come into managing diabetes, and it's not as simple as just counting carbs and injecting insulin. I have got a series that I'm doing which is 5 T1D tips, which I hope will be useful for you as well, where I just break things down into bite-sized chunks of information that you can take on a bit at a time, because obviously I know when you're diagnosed it is so overwhelming and all the information is just like a lot to take on at once. So yeah, I will link that playlist in this video. I also really wanted to mention in this video the importance of exercise. So I have already done a video on what I wish I knew when I started weight training with type 1 diabetes, which again I'll link in this video. So I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of exercise and diabetes now, but one thing I will say is that it is so beneficial for managing your diabetes. It increases your insulin sensitivity, which makes it so much easier to keep your blood sugars a lot more stable. So although it is kind of overwhelming at the beginning, it can be difficult to manage your sugars around exercise when you start, because it does obviously have a big impact on your blood sugar levels. But once you get into a routine and you know what you're doing, it is so easy to manage, and it's just so worth it in terms of the benefits. I also wanted to mention this next thing super early on in the video because I think it is so important, and that is the online community. So when I was diagnosed, I didn't really know anyone or many people that had type 1 diabetes. I felt kind of alone and isolated, and I wish I had kind of looked to the online community a lot earlier. There are so many people on Instagram and Facebook and that kind of thing that are going through the exact same thing that you're going through, and they're sharing their experiences and their advice. I started about 2 years ago my own diabetes Instagram, which of course I always link in the comments below if you want to go and have a look over there, and I share my struggles but also my advice and how I exercise the diabetes and all that kind of thing, and there's just so much information and support online. I wish I had accessed this years and years and years ago. Having said that, it's really important to remember that although it is great to get information from a lot of different sources and people that actually have diabetes rather than just doctors and nurses that don't really know what it's like to live with the condition, it's important to remember that what works for some people won't work for you. Everyone's diabetes is slightly different. People's bodies respond to different things in different ways, so you will need to use a lot of trial and error with your diabetes, and that is 100% okay. And while you're doing trial and error, there will be periods where your blood sugar isn't as perfect as you'd like it to be, but it's really important to do the trial and error, because then eventually you'll find somewhere where you're stable and you're just exactly where you want to be. You just kind of have to go through the ups and the downs to get to where you want to be in the end. It's kind of like one big lifelong experiment. Bear in mind that there are a lot of really helpful people online, but just be wary, it won't necessarily work for you. We're not all kind of diabetes clones. Everyone's body is very different. Equally, as you grow and develop and your diabetes progresses, there will be things that worked for you before and they won't work for you anymore, and you need to be able to respond and react to that. I wish I had taken it upon myself to educate myself about my diabetes a lot earlier on, because I could have responded to changes in my body and growth, and you know, during puberty there are a lot of changes that happen with your diabetes, and I could have managed that so much better if I had educated myself rather than waiting to see the diabetes team each time. I could have made changes myself independently. It's so easy to do if you're properly educated and you have the support of your diabetes nurses. Of course, it is really important to touch base with them and discuss any issues you have with them and see what they have to say about your blood sugar management. But there are a lot of things that you can do yourself and manage yourself, and it's a lot easier than having to rely on the doctors and nurses all the time. But you just have to educate yourself and respond and react to any changes that you're seeing in your blood sugar. That I wish I had been more open to earlier on with my diabetes is technology. Now, I didn't want to get a Libra, which is this on my arm, my CGM. I didn't want one for a really long time because I didn't want anything to signal out that I was different. I didn't want people to stare. I didn't want people to ask what it was about. I just wanted my diabetes to be hidden, and so I didn't get one for a really long time, but it has been the single thing that has revolutionized my diabetes control and also my life. It is incredible, and again, I have got a separate video on this which I will link here where I discuss how it works and the advantages and why I recommend one. So I'm not going to go into all the ins and outs of the Libra now, but I just want to let you know that technology is there to help you. It is not there to make things difficult for you, and if you think there is a piece of technology that will help you, please go for it and ask for it. Even if it's something that you don't think you need now, don't think that in a year or 2 or even 10 years you can't go back to your doctors and ask for it then. It can be difficult to get things, especially on the NHS. There are a lot of rules and regulations, but if you want something, you need to push for it. I had to push for maybe 6 months to get my Libra on the NHS prescription because obviously everything is a cost to the NHS, but it has, I can't even tell you how much it's helped my diabetes. And I've maybe been asked twice what it is. People never look, people never stare. It's all in your own head, and technology is, yeah, just take advantage of it, please. I wish someone had told me when I was diagnosed is that it is okay to be selfish, and it is necessary sometimes to be selfish with your diabetes. Whether that's skipping in front of the queue for lunch at school because your blood sugar's going low or whatever it might be, being selfish with diabetes is 100% okay and sometimes necessary. People will understand you have a health condition that you need to take care of, and everything else is kind of second priority. So just like a little example, when I was back at uni, it was my friend's birthday and we were going to go for pizza, but we weren't going to eat until quite late because we had like other plans during the day. But I don't really like to eat pizza after kind of 6 or 6:30 because it really messes up my blood sugars, and I want to have plenty of time to monitor it before I go to sleep. So I just said, oh, it's fine guys, you have the pizza, we were going to get takeaway and I'll just cook my own food and eat with you. And Daisy was like, don't be silly, I only chose pizza because it's easy, we'll just get a different takeaway. So we ended up getting an Indian and I had a curry, and it was so much easier to manage my diabetes, and she didn't care, and it was her birthday and we still celebrated, and it was just me being not necessarily selfish but just asking what options there are, because if you don't discuss this with people won't even realise there's an issue or a problem or something that could be making you anxious in relation to your diabetes. So just be open and communicate with people and let them know what would be easier for you, and everyone is going to understand. Trust me, no one has ever said no, you're being an issue to this. On like the mental side of how to manage your diabetes around other people is that please remember you are not weird. Yeah, that is what I want to say about that. You're not weird, you just have a health condition, you have to manage it. That's the last couple of things I wanted to mention. I wanted to end on a positive note because obviously, yeah, I do know when you're first diagnosed it is really overwhelming, but please remember, and I wish someone had told me this, please remember that it does get easier. Once you kind of educate yourself about your own condition and you learn how to adapt and change your insulin ratios and work out what kind of foods work for you and what foods don't work for you, and you get into a routine, it gets so much easier. All you need is education, whether that's, like I said, going on Instagram and connecting with people online, or whether that's reading medical journals if that's your kind of thing, or reading books. I mentioned a couple of videos ago a book that has revolutionised my diabetes management and my mental health in relation to my diabetes. It's called Think Like a Pancreas, and again I will leave a link in the description box below. It's written by a guy who has been type 1 since I think the 80s, and he's also a certified diabetes educator, and he just fills you in on all of his advice over all of the years he has had of managing his own diabetes and other people's diabetes, and it is just incredible. And he looks at diabetes management in a really healthy way that kind of teaches you to manage your diabetes around your life rather than trying to manage your life around your diabetes, which I think is so important. Finally, one thing I wish someone had told me that no one thought to tell me is that don't expect to be perfect. It can be difficult as well. At the beginning, you have your honeymoon period where your blood sugars are a lot more easy to manage because your pancreas is still kind of working slightly and producing a bit of insulin for you. But as you come out of that honeymoon period, and it can be anywhere from 1 to 2 years, things get a lot more complicated and tricky, and your blood sugars will fluctuate a lot more until you find your new routine and your new kind of normal with your diabetes. And it can be difficult mentally because you think you're not doing well enough, you worry about complications, you think you're a failure, you think you're never going to be able to manage this. But no, please don't let those thoughts enter your head. You do not need to be perfect with your diabetes. You just need to be as well in control as you can be without damaging your mental health. And yeah, complications only happen when you are neglecting your diabetes. If it is in your mind and you are consciously trying to get better and better each day, that is good enough. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to do as well as you can do without sacrificing your mental health. And yeah, perfection with diabetes doesn't exist, so please don't think it does. So that is everything I wish I had been told when I was diagnosed with diabetes at 7 years old. I hope this video has been useful for you. If it has been, please give it a like because it really helps me know what kind of videos you find enjoyable and useful. And if you have any requests for videos you'd like to see in the future, leave them down in the comments below and I will make sure to do those for you. But for now, I think I'm actually going low, so I'm going to go and fix that, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.